I first started following Toby Bateman when he joined Hodinkee during COVID. His selfies have always brought a smile to my face, even though he describes them as grumpy, and his watches are a classic approach to design I certainly appreciate. I was eager to speak with Toby about his various CEO roles at extremely different companies. Hodinkee was obviously watch based, Volaback, an incredibly tech centric apparel brand, and now Mr. Porter, the menswear site he actually helped launch in 2011. This conversation is very heavy in fashion and watch talk. We chat about running holiday promotions, approaches to our own personal style, and we even touch on a couple of cars in his life. We both looked down and realized an hour and 20 minutes went by, so it's fair to say this was an effortless discussion, and I hope to host Toby again. I hope you enjoy it. I'm your host, Wesley Smith, and you're listening to the Standard Age Podcast. Toby,
Hey Wesley, how are you?
I'm well, sir. How are you?
I'm very well, thanks.
Yeah, it's great to see you. I'm loving this molding on the wall behind you.
This is just my office.
It looks like the backdrop to a Ralph Lauren shoot.
I know they use my office as a studio occasionally. No, they
Yeah,
don't.
it's like the epitome of a purple label photograph.
Do you want me to give you the? Do you want me to give you like a 360 view?
Yeah, sure, because we are going to use this video. I hope that's all right.
See,
Oh, you've got the Christmas
then
tree
and then
up.
and then you,
Oh,
and then you
wow.
look out here, right? And there's
Wha-
the that's
It's a very
that's
different aesthetic.
that's the Mr. Porter office.
Oh, that's fantastic. What is this outerwear piece you're wearing?
This actually, seeing as you ask, this is a Mr. P um, piece.
Yeah.
It's a double-faced cashmere little sort of chore jacket thing. Can you see?
Yes, I can, and I'm loving
Yeah.
it.
Got like this and it's got like a slightly sort of like different like split sunken hem.
Right.
Uh,
So it's almost rather than like a double vent blazer, it's almost more like a polo finish.
it's
You know, like the tail of a polo.
yeah, basically, yes,
Yeah,
exactly. Yeah.
that's
Um,
great.
yeah.
I like that. Who
It-
so we're
It's all
already
soft and
we're already
cozy as
off
well.
piste here. What is
Okay, I wasn't sure what piece you were trying to tackle actually.
well there's no agenda.
That's what I heard, you know.
Yeah. There's so when you guys create these pieces, do you work often with the same manufacturer or do you switch it up or is it like Private White doing this for you like behind the scenes like how do you guys choose who you work with for things like this?
It's no one like that, but we on the Mr. P own label, most of it comes from Europe, most of it's Portugal.
Okay.
Um, we, you know, most of it also has some kind of sustainability angle
Okay.
and work with a company that sort of authenticates and assesses what we're doing in terms of our fabric choices and sort of accredits, if that's the right word. Perhaps that's not the right word. The factories that we use, but so we try and be quite careful about everything that we do. And I think the nice thing about Mr. P, because it's ours, and we don't wholesale it, then the price to quality ratio is super high. So we're making in factories in Europe that designer brands are making in,
Yeah.
but we can sell it at a good margin for half the price of what those other designer brands might be because we don't have to have that markup that
Yeah.
people have. So it does represent get very good value.
Yeah.
I don't mean to sort of do the sales pitch.
No. I mean, you're basically explaining D2C, right? Like that started maybe what, 15 years ago with e-commerce, like some of these brands that had launched back then were we're saying just that, right? Like we're cutting out the middleman, we're not doing wholesale, we're direct to consumers so we can give you better quality at cheaper prices.
Yeah, I mean, it's a very unusual thing for a multi-brand, retailer to do, of course,
Yeah.
because, we're here to sell, branded goods to our customers. And, the fact that we have this own label is very unique. And I think actually it was I mean, there's not a long story behind it, but the way that it happened, just in case you're interested,
Mm.
um, is that way back in, I think probably way back in like 2012 or something, the early days of Mr. Porter, we had this moment and we'd only been going since February 2011, but by about sort of mid 2012, we started to become aware that Mr. Porter in itself was a strong brand.
Yeah.
I know that sounds crazy, me saying, oh, we started to become aware, like we weren't trying to make it happen. But actually, we weren't really focused on turning Mr. Porter into a brand. We were just doing our things, right? We just had a curation of brands, an edit of options that we liked within those brands. We had some, we felt like we had a point of view, which we did. And we contextualized all of that through great content, which
Hmm.
was giving people inspiration and ideas and advice. And in the background was Mr. Porter. But actually, eventually, in those days, the brands and the sort of fashion journalists and stuff like that started saying to us, "Oh, wow, Toby, Mr. Porter's such a strong brand." They weren't saying to us, "Oh, you're selling amazing brands," or this, that, and the other. I mean, they were saying that as well, but it was this moment when they were just saying, "Mr. Porter's such a strong brand," and I think I had a very casual conversation about that with Natalie Massenet, who was the founder of the business and the founder of Net-a-Porter back in, 2000 or even 1999, I think maybe for Net-a-Porter. Um, and um, and I said, yeah, maybe we should have a collection called Mr. Porter. Maybe it should be a brand, an actual brand of clothing.
Right.
And that was the genesis of it. And then very shortly after that, we did the project with Matthew Vaughn and the Kingsman movies, Matthew
Right.
Vaughn being the director, where we worked with him at the conception of the script and the costume, and Ariane Phillips, who was the costume director on the movie, and her and I sort of conceived, well, what would these kind of like gentlemen spies wear? And it was all sort of double-breasted suits and that type of thing.
Sure.
Um, and that was all done very, very deliberately to then turn Kingsman into a brand and to sell it. And it was a huge success. And so it was a combination of those two things. So after that, I said to Natalie, look, Kingsman's been a huge success. We talked about Mr. Porter having its own brand. I think now's the time for us to, really start thinking about doing something about that.
Right.
And then I guess within a sort of a year or two after that, Mr. P, which is what, internally how we sort of affectionately referred to the business as,
Sure.
became a label.
That's great. That's fantastic. Well, I feel, was it Huntsman that did the suits for that movie?
Well, hang on. No, they did they're like the origin story because
Okay.
Matthew used to have his suits made at Huntsman.
Huntsman. Got it.
So the whole idea of the thing of like, oh, it could be this tailor shop and there could be a secret door in the fitting room and all this type of thing. It came from there,
Okay.
um, but they never made the suits. There was the suits for the stars in the movie, like Colin Firth, were made bespoke
Right.
um, by he's a guy called Martin, who was sort of former Savile Row tailor, had worked might have worked at Huntsman, but he had worked at Dunhill,
Okay.
but he
Sure.
independently. I can't remember his surname. That he's if he ever hears this, he'll be really cross with me. But he was the one that made the bespoke suits for the film,
Got
and
it.
we made the block for the Kingsman suits really very closely based off at Colin Firth's actual bespoke suit, which we
Right.
took up to, in those days, the Cheshire Clothing Company,
Hmm.
which in the old days was called Chester Barry. And it was one of the few remaining UK fully canvassed tailoring makers. That was in 2013. They, after a couple of years later, they sort of, I don't think they went bust, but the business changed, and at that point we moved the production to Caruso in Italy,
I see.
which is also a very, very high standard of, tailoring manufacturer. So retained the fully canvassed element of it, but sadly, after a couple of years of Kingsman, we had to move the production away from England.
Right.
Uh, and it was always nice to have it made in England. There you
Wow.
go. There you go. As you say,
Yeah.
we haven't even said hello, and I've
Right.
talked 15 minutes about something random.
No, it's quite all right. I mean, that's literally just how these shows go. Yeah, we're gonna bounce around all kinds of places, I'm sure. What I'm not doing a wrist check per se, but what was your most worn watch this year, would you say?
Um, I would say my most worn watch this year has been my 1016 Explorer,
Oh, classic.
and it is often my most worn watch. But that was partly because I don't rotate my watches as much as I used to, I have to admit.
Okay.
Um, but it was partly because in the summer I was in the garden and getting a bit of sun, and I was wearing this watch,
I wanted to ask you about this one.
is which is my red sub.
Yeah, that's my
Um,
Grail Submariner, the
right.
1680 red.
1680
Yeah.
exactly. So I was wearing this, and I'd taken it off, and I'd wrapped it up in the t-shirt that I was wearing, that I'd taken off, and I put it on the table in the garden.
Okay.
I forgot it was in there, and I picked it up, and the watch fell out and smashed on the sort of the paving, the patio
Oh,
that we have, and the loom from the second hand like literally fell out.
oh my gosh.
And I put like quite a reasonable sized dent in the side of the case of the watch. I mean, it's a well-worn watch. It's from 1972, but so that sort of took this watch out of action for a while, and then eventually I got it fixed, and actually it's ended up even better because um, there's a fashion story to this watch.
Let's hear it.
So the fashion story to this watch is that, and I told this for the first time in an article in 10 magazine recently.
Okay.
Um, so this watch was bought by Jeremy Langmead, who is the brand and content director of Mr. Porter, and who was, effectively he and I were co-founders of Mr. Porter back in 2010, 2011. He was the brand and content director, and I was the buying director. Um, uh, Jeremy bought it from Adam Brown, who is the founder of All of Our Brown
Right.
swimwear.
Sure.
Jeremy bought it from Adam when he was starting the All Bar Brown brand, and he needed a bit of cash.
Wow.
So he sold this to Jeremy, who he was friends with, and then several years later, Jeremy was moving house, and he moved house quite a bit in the sort of like, I don't know, sort of 2013 to 2018 period for some reason. And he needed a bit of cash, and I bought it off him. So I'm the third sort of fashion custodian of this watch.
Oh, that's
And so,
fantastic.
so sorry, getting to my point. So I eventually had it sorted out, and I managed to, at some point before I'd got it, it had been serviced by Rolex, and they'd changed the hands. So for the first sort of 5 years of me owning this watch, it had sort of service hands that didn't match the patina of the loom, and on the you know
Indices.
markers and stuff, indices, exactly, that's the word I'm looking for. So I managed to get a pair of original new stock hands put on it, and that was only about 6 weeks ago. So
Well,
it looks better than it ever has done.
so you posted a photo of it recently, and actually, it's funny because again, we're kind of jumping ahead here, but and which is in the best way possible. So I couldn't help but notice your post on Instagram about that watch, and I was just like, "Holy smokes, that thing looks incredible!" I'm dying to know the story of this watch. Again, I have a strong affinity for this particular reference. Um, where did you source those hands?
So David Silver, do you know
Okay,
David?
I
Who
don't
has
know David.
he has the vintage watch shop in the Burlington Arcade.
Oh,
No,
yeah, I'm
no,
familiar with that shop, but I don't
yeah,
know
the
David.
shop. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. These shop. You walk through the Burlington Arcade.
right near Cleverly. Yeah.
The one on the left. No, not in that
Or no,
arcade.
no, that's yeah, yeah, that's the different arcade.
The Regent Arcade or something that goes between Bond Street and Dover Street.
Right.
No, the Burlington Arcade is the one that goes
Burlington. Yeah,
Regent Street up to sort of where Cicconi's is, and it's got like N Peel on the corner. There's a Vilbequin store right at the beginning. Anyway, so he's halfway up on the left, and there's like a display of 200 watches or something in the window that people are always kind of like gawping over. Yeah, so I've known David for, just I don't know, for a while, just from, going in and looking at watches. So
sure.
he very kindly sort of had it sorted out for me because he knew the right person to do it.
Wow. Yeah,
Yeah.
those the watch looks incredible.
Thank you.
Um, you were at Mr. Porter before, famously, obviously. You're there now. You've had a couple leaps and since. Can you go into why you left initially from the first stint, let's call it?
Can I go into that?
Is it possible?
I don't know.
Okay,
I, I think I just, reached the end of that, chapter at that time.
sure. Okay.
And now I've kind of, and then I decided to come back because I feel like, you know, the, the new position of the company with the new ownership and the vision or the opportunity that they have in mind for Mr. Porter aligned with mine. And so yeah, so I agreed to come back. It's great.
Who now owns Mr. Porter?
Mr. Porter is part of a group called the Lux Experience Group,
Okay.
um, which includes My Theresa, which is the German-based online retailer which does women's and men's.
Yep.
So they now own My Theresa, Net-a-Porter, Mr. Porter, and Yoox, which is the
Oh,
sort of
sure.
Italian-based sort of off-price online retail business.
Now, when did that acquisition happen? That transaction, I guess, went over my
That
head
that
somehow.
transaction completed at the end of April this year.
Okay. Yeah, I was like, it must have been fairly recently because I had no idea.
Yeah.
That's interesting. So we're officially in the throes of the holiday season. I'm kind of curious as to what your positioning is on promotional or like, putting things on sale, let's say.
Uh,
Um, is there like a particular approach in your brain or Mr. Porter's sort of I don't know, execution as far as like, is it time on the shelf? Is it date specific? Is it like what is your approach there? What's your thought?
I mean, I long for the days when and actually when I say long for the days in the beginning, so in sort of 2011, 2012, Mr. Porter, I think even in the United States, I think we didn't break sale until Boxing Day, which is
Okay, sure.
and and I think even in those days, like certainly in those days in the US, I mean, it's been long been tradition in the US for sale to start sort of on or around or immediately after Thanksgiving,
Right.
right? That's kind of been the case for a long time. But it wasn't like that in the UK or Europe for, until, relatively recently. So, but we're all part of a market and we're all sort of subject to those market forces. So,
Yeah.
we are on sale now. In terms of my approach to that, I don't, I I put in old stock. There's an element of sort of current seasonal stock that we choose to sort of recode or trade forward into the next season, and that
Hmm.
can be for a number of reasons. That could be that it's I suppose mostly it's selling well.
Yeah.
It can also be just a fairly kind of staple item that you know doesn't feel like I need to discount it and clear it because it will continue to sell well.
Seasonally
Um,
agnostic, if you will.
Seasonally agnostic, exactly. Um, and but I don't put everything in
Right.
that was in autumn. So I don't put in like high winter stuff, because that just seems crazy to me. You just get to the point of the year where it's starting to get cold in London and New York, and then everyone puts all their coats and shearling jackets in the sale. That's sort of madness to me. So we don't tend to put that type of product in.
Yeah.
That'll trade through. So yeah, that's my approach. And ideally, I think, a good retail business should only be running two sales a year. There should be one at the end of the winter season, and there should be one at the end of the summer season.
I love that. Yeah. I am so even with my own product, I try not to be super promotional about it. And I'm using factories kind of akin to what you were saying earlier about Mr. P, where like there are big brands that are in the factories that I'm using. Quite frankly, I hope I'm not jinxing myself, but like I almost have no business being in those factories just due to my size, right? I'm so small that like
Ah,
the fact
you've got imposter syndrome.
well, that is true. Frankly, it's something I've really,
We,
that's been kind of top of mind lately in my life, actually.
oh, well, don't we all, right?
It's a hot button, Toby.
I think it is.
Uh,
It's like the modern ailment for like most of us. We all feel like imposters for some reason in this
yeah,
life.
I don't know. I'm trying my hardest, and I really do feel like I'm doing great things, and I just don't have millions of dollars to shout about it, right? So, like, and gloating has never really been my thing. So it's just hard to stay sort of humble, but also ensure people that they are looking at and touching and feeling and buying good product, which was why I always sort of half-heartedly joke. My favorite compliment is the backhanded compliment of, "Oh, this is actually nice."
Yeah,
You
yeah,
know?
that's a good one. Yeah, you shouldn't.
Um,
It's not gloating, by the way. I think you're just it, it's marketing, but it's not even that. And I mean, joking aside, people often ask about that perspective on Mr. Porter from
mm,
me,
right.
and look, I'm not saving any lives, right? So I kind of got to this stage in my career. I'm not a surgeon. I'm not a fireman. I'm not sort of, cracking any kind of like, biological code to like improve kind of health or anything like that. I'm selling people clothes, and so there does come a point where you sort of think, oh, have I really sort of, you know, fulfilled, or what purpose have I really sort of been serving?
Mm,
But then, of course, you get to meet your customers, and like you say, right, that backhanded compliment of, oh, actually, this is quite nice. I bought this thing. I didn't think it was going to be very good, and you think, well, why did you buy it in the first place? And actually, it's really amazing that But I've been meeting lots of customers, particularly in the last few months from coming back to Mr. Porter. We hosted a dinner for like 15 or 20 customers in New York. I did the same for an even bigger group of customers in Hong Kong. I did one here in London where we invited some customers to a Drake's event that we did. And the thing about all of these guys is that they just, they love menswear.
mm.
And they love Mr. Porter, and they just sort of like, and not really like, I'm not saying that they're saying that, oh, thank you, but I do feel like, if if we've achieved anything, then it's like, then I think what we've done in the last 15 years has kind of like furthered this sort of hobby or this passion of kind of men's clothing or dressing in a certain way or helping men, you know, discover and then define their own style. And for lots of people, that's been like quite a meaningful change. It's like it's
Yeah.
something they discovered. They're like, oh wow, yeah, I love this like little, cashmere double-faced jacket and or oh, these denim shirts from Drake's or I didn't know anything about John Lobb and now I've discovered it, or I didn't know what Incotex were and now I understand what a great, trouser maker they are, or, all of that stuff, right?
Hmm.
So, anyway, that's me trying to sort of, justify to some extent that I'm not just sort of, peddling clothes. I feel I hope that we're sort of, you know, we're providing people with a platform and a channel through which they can like really find sort of enjoyment and and passion and interest, and then of course the impact that then has on people can be super positive, right?
Yeah,
You can make
absolutely.
people feel much better if you're getting up in the morning and you're kind of like and you're dressing well and you're walking out of that out of your front door thinking like, yeah, actually, I feel like I'm like looking good today, and that that makes you feel better. Or you might set you up for a great performance at a new job interview, or like you might make you feel more confident on a first date, or whatever, right?
Yeah. No,
So,
absolutely. I
so
couldn't
many
agree
different
more.
things. Yeah.
Yeah. No, that's great. Um, you were at Hodinkee at a very interesting time, obviously. Pandemic situation. Um, you were living in London, I think, still, right? When you were there. Did you ever plan to move to New York? Like, was
No,
that ever a part of the conversation?
no, that was never
Okay.
part of the conversation. No.
Okay, interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Uh,
What was there anything you learned at Hodinkee that you still use today or often?
oh, I mean, it was, I think sort of from start to finish, it was about a 2-year period.
Right.
Um, from the sort of the beginning of 2020. So you know, literally sort of January, February, the start of the pandemic,
Yeah.
through to the end of the year 2021. Um, and yeah, I mean, I learned a ton um, in, I don't know, where do I start? I mean, firstly, I think I learned a lot about the watch business, of course, because I'd been involved in it through Mr. Porter because we'd built a watch business, but it wasn't necessarily um, as
Focused.
big or focused or as specialized as the one, of course, that Hodinkee was. Um, but I think more than that, it was this sort of step out of you know at that point, I was the managing director of Mr. Porter, had been for 5 years. But it's a sort of but it was a business within a much bigger business. And, and the reality of that is that, day to day, week to week, month to month, I wasn't really, in those days, I wasn't responsible for like cash flow, the bank, the costs of, shipment per order and logistics and packaging. And, I was really running the commercial side, the buying, the merchandising, the editorial, the social, the content, the communications,
The fun
sales
stuff.
and personal shopping. Yeah, all of that stuff. But of course, Hodinkee was top to bottom, and also it was at that time when the company had received new investment in the summer of 2020.
Mm.
And that's when I sort of transitioned from being on the board there to being the CEO, and of course, so that was interesting for me, being part of that business with some very interesting stakeholders. on the board. Um, and and then of course, running a team in America from my dining room in Surrey, basically, where we had like 40 odd people in New York at Hodinkee. We we bought Crown and Caliber, which was based in Atlanta, and there were maybe 80 odd sort of staff in Atlanta, a
Right.
lot of which was sort of operational and logistics because there was a big sort of like watch workshop down there.
Hmm.
And I got to travel there a few times and meet all of those guys, and they're all like really, really, really nice, completely different sort of, I suppose, type of American culture in Atlanta
Oh,
to,
sure. Yeah.
to the one that I sort of knew in New York. So that was, so I really enjoyed, that experience as well. And then through that period, the business went crazy
Right.
in
Yeah.
terms of demand because everyone
At home,
was stuck at home and
spending money.
people were, continuing to earn money. They weren't really able to spend it. Everyone was spending a lot of time online, you know, getting really kind of deep and nerdy on sort of watch details. So it was this sort of like sales line was like that. So yeah, so I mean, in short, I learned a ton from that experience.
What was the effect on your own watch box?
Oh, heavy, heavy. And the relationship with my wife, who kept asking me why new watches kept arriving in the post.
I'm just
Uh,
testing it out, honey. Yeah.
it's hard when you're in it sort of every day and you've
Yeah.
got all things, particularly the limited edition stuff that they were doing.
Oh, yeah.
Because if you let one of those pass you by,
It's
you
gone.
you you would think, oh, literally I've kind of like one has slipped through the net. The first one that I bought was the Blancpain 50 Fathoms
It's the best ever.
edition, which is like very, very strong.
Yeah.
And that was a late call, So that was, when was that? I guess that was at the end of 2020. I think we released that.
Okay.
Um, and although maybe I'm getting my, yeah, I think it was the end of 2020.
Well,
Uh,
it's funny. There's several Hodinkee limited editions that I think are the greatest execution of that watch ever. Like, I think the Vacheron that
I mean, the
was like,
Vacheron
it's
Corn de Vache, that was one of the first ones he did, right?
knocked it out of the park.
Yeah,
It's the
the gray
best. That
dial.
that
Yeah,
like slate gray or dark graphite
yeah,
sort of. Oh my
yeah.
God, it's so beautiful. I think
Mhm.
that 50 Fathoms is like all time, you know.
Yeah, yeah.
I'm trying to think of
Or the Skipper, the
oh
Hoya
sure, the
Skipper.
Skipper and the Dado. I used to own the Dado actually,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
there's several days where I missed that watch, but the only downside to a Hoyer is those rotors are just so loud. Like they distract
They
me.
keep you awake at night.
Right. Well, yeah, just in the day, like if you move it, you can hear that thing going around. It's
Yeah,
crazy.
yeah.
But
That happens a lot with my IWC Pilot. I've got
really,
got a Pilot's watch from 2008, I think it is. And
okay.
so when you take it off and put it down on the table, the rotor sort of goes in, like sometimes just goes completely mental. It just goes. Wah, wah, wah.
Well, back in
Anyway,
'08,
I've,
was
never-
that
I've,
a
I've never had it serviced, and it works perfectly and keeps
sure?
amazing. I'm not someone that services watches, sadly, and that might gain complaints.
Yeah, I mean, maybe that's a hot take, maybe not, but I'm in your same camp actually. But back in 2008, that may be a Valjoux movement, depending on which watch you have.
Yeah,
But
maybe.
I know
It's the
like
pilot.
my
It's the
early,
pilot. It's the pilot's chronograph.
okay,
I think
got
it's
it.
a 3717, maybe. Is that the reference? I'm not so good at IWC references, but
I think
uh,
you were wearing that watch when we met in London.
was I? Maybe.
I
Yeah.
think you were actually.
Yeah. I mean, I wear it. I actually bought it when my daughter was born, as a like a gift to myself for becoming a father.
Oh, that's amazing.
So that's a keeper. I won't be selling that.
Oh, that's great. Yeah, I
Mm.
was thinking of what watch to get, to sort of commemorate the birth of my daughter, and I preempted it actually. So I got a watch long before she was born
You,
because Well, sadly, it took longer to have her than we expected, so it was one of those things.
Okay. Okay.
But I went with a Cartier Tank Louis because I was thinking of we didn't know if we would have a boy or a girl, so I was like, what's kind of a universal sort of approach?
Yes, that's you
And
can definitely hand that down.
yeah, so I'm
Yeah.
excited for her to have that hopefully one
Well,
day.
well, that's the thing. That's yeah. I suppose that's the problem with this with the IWC. I'm not sure really gonna my daughter's really gonna ever want to wear that. But
That would
I
be
don't know, maybe
cool.
I'll switch that one. That can be one for my son, and then I don't know. I haven't gotten round to sort of divvying up the watches in that way
Sure.
yet.
Sure. Yeah. Okay, so you got the 1016, the 1680, obviously a chronograph. Do you have like a favorite type of watch or complication? Is it or is it just all watch dependent?
All my watches have all been bought based on what they look like, really.
Yeah, same.
But I like sort of iconic things.
Hmm.
But yeah, because I like the stories behind. I like the story behind the 1016 because it's the longest, running production reference that Rolex has ever had. I like the 1680. I mean, just because, I mean, where do you
It's
start with a
classic.
Submariner in terms of the sort of the cinematic history of that?
Hmm.
Um, I actually bought the IWC originally because at that point I had a Rolex Precision Datejust
Oh,
that I
beautiful.
bought when I was 25 years old off a friend of mine called Mark, whose father was a watch dealer in Rome. He's half Italian, Mark. And his father was a sort of contemporary of Auro Montanari,
Oh,
or
sure. Yeah, Goldberg.
in that sort of era. And when I'd known Mark since we were about 12 or 13 years old, and we were great friends. And even when we were like 13, Mark had a sort of 1980s reference IWC Pilot.
Oh, wow.
So sort of slightly smaller start size. The indices were starting to sort of patina, and a lot of other people. Everyone was Rolex obsessed,
Hmm.
um, and that was why I ended up buying that rather than a Rolex, because I thought, no, no, I want to have this because you don't see as many of them. And of course, that was 2008. And the notes, so that was like pre-prices going up and stuff. So obviously I'd made no money on the IWC. Not that I'm going to sell it, but if I'd had the forethought then and just, you know, got myself a cheeky Daytona or something, then obviously I would have made a fortune. But
Gosh,
I
I
just
have so
so
many stories.
I just buy things because I like them, and I still really like that watch. I think it's just like stands out. I just love like the two dots and the triangle at the top, and
Yeah.
just like simplicity of the fonts and things like that. I've got a Speedmaster, which I'd wanted a Speedmaster for a long time, and then for a long time, I sort of um, I through Instagram, I'd become obsessed with the white dial Speedmasters that had been made for the Japanese department store Mitsukoshi,
Oh, wow. Yeah, sure.
which I think they were made back in something like 2013, and it was the first time that Omega had produced a white dial Speedmaster, and they only made like, I don't know, very limited numbers, and they're now sort of much sort of Franken watched. If you like, there's tons of people that claim that they're selling Mitsukoshi dial Speedmasters, and of course they're not. They're just sort of they've got white dials from somewhere else,
So
and
you
and
have
and
one of those.
had them switched. No, I didn't have one of those
Oh,
because
okay, okay.
that was kind of my that was the thing that was the Speedmaster that originally made me want a Speedmaster.
Oh, I see.
Although here's another. I mean, this is all going to end up about watches, isn't it?
That's
Uh,
okay.
so I'd had actually on loan from Mark, the same friend that I bought my original Rolex Precision from, and a an Ed White Speedmaster,
Oh,
so like
sure.
a pre-professional, and actually it was in like amazing condition. But at the time, he just wanted a bit too much money for it. And
Right.
I was just like umming and ahhing on it. And it's one of those, and in the end, I gave it back to him. And it's one of those ones that I kind of regret not, not pulling the trigger on.
Yeah.
Um, and then in the end, I ended up getting a Tintin dial Speedmaster. Again, primarily because of the story. I loved that story that I think broke on Fratello of how it was a failed, collab, and I just sort of like that. It's just sort of interesting. So yeah, so I've got one of those. What was your original question? I can't remember what the original.
I don't know.
Oh,
I
you
really
said
don't remember.
do I like movements, or what's my kind of
Well,
that's,
well, honestly, we could sort of just dovetail that into the like, is there sort of any approach and or like, how do you characterize your watch collection and or collecting? Like, is it just, it sounds pretty classic, timeless design.
I think it is quite classic. Yes,
Yeah.
it
Yeah,
is. Yeah,
yeah,
there's
yeah.
nothing controversial in there.
Right, right, right.
No, no, no. Um,
Um, which is also a great segue into my next question because we met when you were at Volleybach and it's not classic, let's call it. It's very forward thinking, techie fabrics is how I sort of think of that brand.
yeah.
Um, Almost antithetical to Mr. P, I would say. Um,
Yeah.
how did you find yourself there? Like, what was that sort of not vetting process? Because that's clearly you're well vetted, but
Uh,
it was like how did you guys pair up?
we just got introduced. I got introduced to the two founders
Okay,
uh, by a friend of mine who was working for an investment company as a sort of brand advisor. And that investment company was looking at the business, thought it was, investable.
okay,
That's a word. But he'd met them and thought, wow, this is like a crazy brand. I've never seen anything like it. But they had sort of said, we don't come from a retail background. We come from an advertising background. We've got a good designer, but no one else in the company has sort of ever really sold any clothes.
hmm
And my friend said, "Oh, well, you should meet Toby because he's like in between things." Like that was in the sort of the summer after I'd left Hodinkee,
right,
and I didn't know the brand at that point. Obviously looked at it online, went into the office in King's Cross, met them, and just became sort of like very, I suppose, engaged in the story.
hmm
Um, they were, very, good founders, and I've sort of worked for a few different founders, I suppose,
hmm
in my time. One of them being Natalie Massenet, another one of them being Ben Clymer.
Sure,
And and I think after, over time, you sort of get to understand sort of what are the qualities that you need from a sort of a founder entrepreneur led business to give it a good chance of success. And I saw all of those qualities in spades in those guys in the sense of they had this very kind of clear but ambitious, slightly crazy vision of using material technology to do things with clothes that no one had ever done before.
sure,
They were, brilliant communicators, had a very successful history in sort of creative advertising, and they were very convincing. They'd raised, successfully a lot of investment into the company and built it from sort of like, naught to one, very, very well established. Like head office. I mean, you came to the office, you know, generally like really good team of people, logistics, packaging. They've done a lot of the heavy lifting of starting a business, and I just thought, well, this is interesting. I'll kind of give it a go.
yeah. Oh, that's
Mm.
great. I mean, their stuff is just so unique. I would imagine they're mostly direct to consumer. They don't do any wholesale,
It's
do
all
they?
it's all direct to consumer.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, I thought
yeah,
so.
yeah, yeah.
Um, Speaking of the summer of 2021, I think that's when, or maybe I don't know, it was probably 2020, is when I started following you on Instagram, and your selfies are iconic, I would say.
I think
Um,
iconic is perhaps
well,
over
they're
overstating it a little bit, Wesley. But yeah,
well, I think they're
I
iconic
thank you for
because
that.
No, I think they're iconic for almost one reason and one reason only. They're so particular. Like it's very. I mean, look, anybody can take a selfie in front of a mirror every day, and because it's done the same way and repeatable. But I don't. There's just something about the way that you do your selfies that
Well, it's
I
because I'm
just
so grumpy. It's because I look so grumpy.
right.
It's
Well,
hashtag grumpy
that
selfie.
that's part of the allure for me because it's like
Hmm.
it's almost like somebody's forcing you to do this, and you're just like, God, I have to do this, but obviously that's not the case, which is why it's
No.
this dichotomy of energies
Yeah.
for me. And
Yeah.
I just love it. Like how did that start? Or was it just the pandemic of, hey, I'm actually putting on clothes as opposed to pajamas? Or like what was
No, it started completely accidentally. I think the very first one that I ever did was a suit that I got from Oliver Spencer,
oh
and it
nice.
was a very lightweight sort of seersucker summer suit that had like his like deconstructed blazer with like that has like buttons on the cuff like this. So it's
Yeah, sure.
like a blazer, but it's got like chore jacket cuff and I suppose they were like a wide leg trouser. And this was before. This must have been like 2018, 2019 or something. And it was like it just wasn't the kind of thing that I was like normally wearing. So I was just like I couldn't figure it out. So I think I just stood in front of the mirror and like took a picture and then looked at it and thought, oh yeah, it looks quite cool, quite like that. And then like later that day, I think I turned it black and white and put it on my Instagram. And people just sort of liked it. But everyone said, why was I looking so grumpy? And of course that's what I always look like in photos. And it went from there really. So it's as you can tell, they're very, very unthought through.
Okay.
Um, Most of them are, I like come down the stairs at home and in the hallway, I've got this big mirror by the front door. I don't go out in and out the front door. I go out in and out the kitchen, which is around another side of the house. But I come downstairs and then if it, sometimes I just go, oh, I'll just stand in front of the mirror and do one. And then often I include the wrist shot as well.
Yeah,
And then often I include the dog as well, which always goes down quite well. So
sure. People
mm,
love dogs.
yeah, clothes, watches, dogs, what's not to like?
So similar to I asked about your watch collection, do you have any proclivities for anything in particular within fashion? Like, are you an outerwear guy? Are you obsessed with shoes? Like, do you have a product category that
Um,
reigns supreme?
well,
Yeah,
shoes are a sort of Imelda Marcos of Surrey situation going on, I'm afraid to say. But they're all very, very classic. In fact, during lockdown, Ollie Spencer, who I'm good friends with, asked me to do like a couple of videos for him because he was just like trying to find content for his site.
okay,
And I ended up doing a little kind of like video of me driving my old Land Rover, the Series 3, wearing his stuff and like talking about the car with my daughter in the passenger seat filming me whilst I was driving and that sort of thing. But he asked me to do two. He wanted to do one in a Land Rover and then he wanted me to do one on shoes and he never published it because it was probably just too much and too boring.
is
But
that
it's
still up? I would love to see that video. I don't think I've seen it.
uh I don't know. You could probably find it if you
That's okay. I'll just
on
search.
via,
Yeah,
via Google if you go like Oliver Spencer
yeah,
and then put my name in.
that's great.
Um, anyway, sorry. So getting to the point was that I kind of got all my shoes out because my shoes are sort of like in different locations because I have like a dressing room slash gym slash spare room situation going on at home. And I have all these kind of cubicles like a boxes or not boxes but like cubed shelving that goes up quite high and they're just filled with shoes, so in each cube like pigeonhole which is like that, in
Yeah.
each one there's probably about I don't know 10 pairs of shoes sort of stuffed in there.
Okay, so you don't keep your shoes in your boxes. You have them
No,
loose. Okay.
no,
See, I keep
no.
all mine in my boxes.
Oh, do you? That would I'd sort of need a an annex or something for that.
Well, yeah, I have them in at least two, maybe three locations in my house.
Right. Okay. Well, yeah, yeah. So there's basically, as you can imagine, I've been doing this. I've been working in menswear, basically since I was about 20, I don't know, 22 or 23 years old.
Right.
So, and my taste in shoes has always been classic. So from the very beginning, I was buying like Crockett and Jones, and like Church's,
Sure.
and John Lobb and J.M. Weston, and stuff like this.
How many
Um,
pairs of brown Oxfords do you own?
you know, I don't dozens,
Yeah.
dozens. It's yeah. So
But
I
they're
so
all
I
different because of toe shape, right? Like, I mean,
Yeah, and they did, and the toe shape did change, obviously. Because I'm talking about, I'm going back to sort of me starting in this business in the late 90s.
yeah. I mean, toe
Um,
shape, square, then, right? Around what, 99? It was very
yeah,
square and
yeah, I did have
soles.
did have quite a dodgy pair of like quite square-toed Gucci loafers at one point.
Mine were Kenneth Cole.
Yeah, are they Kenneth Cole?
They were. Yeah, yeah. In 99.
I don't think that they remain actually, or if they do, I've got a few bags of shoes that are in the loft, which I just
Sure.
like don't even kind of like go into anymore.
Yeah.
So sorry, so you were asking about proclivities. So shoes, but definitely kind of on that sort of classic sense.
Yeah.
Um, because I have this thing where for a long time, I just wore jeans, and I'd wear jeans with like an Oxford shirt and like a casual blazer and a pair of like hard shoes.
Sure.
And that was pretty much my uniform from sort of 2000 and, you know, 5 to sort of 2018 or something, pretty much.
Sure.
Um, and but then if I was wearing like chinos or a smarter trouser, then often I'd wear a sneaker with that. So I have this sort of thing where I try to mix formal and casual, and for me, it almost feels better. I could never come to work in like jeans and trainers, for example, because
Right.
that just doesn't go. But I can do chinos and trainers at work, but
Sure.
not jeans and trainers. That's like that doesn't fit. So it's always kind of like a very kind of like formal hard shoe with any kind of like denim that I wear, or a boot. I've got quite a good collection of boots, like
Yeah.
Louboutin and Viberg and stuff like that.
Oh,
Um,
sure. Yeah, I'm a boot guy myself. What's your trainer of choice?
and Nike.
Okay.
Pretty much all of them are Nikes. More recently, I guess New Balance. I did get quite deep into the Nike Sakai
Oh,
um,
wow.
period, which was sort of 2017 to 2019. That's sort of that period. So I pretty much got all of
Yeah.
those releases from Nike Sakai, which was a waffle. It's the LD waffle with the kind of with the with the double
Soul.
sole, which is meant to be a kind of a reference to the Japanese the clogs.
Yep. Oh, that's
Um,
great. I
yeah,
got into some sneakers like just pre-COVID, I think. Like it was probably, yeah, 2018, and I ended up getting this pair. Are you familiar with the acronym
yeah,
Nikes with like
yeah,
that sort of oh God, I'm blanking on the silhouette's name. But anyway, it was more the high top with the zipper. And I
yeah,
tell you what, if you're flying on a red eye, that is the most comfortable shoe ever because your feet swell on an airplane.
yeah,
They're unbelievable. Now, granted, recently I haven't been wearing them because I've just been wearing like chinos or whatever. But like for a minute there, I was wearing Nike sweatpants on a red eye only, never during the day, mind you.
yeah.
I still find that there's a lack of self-respect sometimes on airplanes by many folks, but I think
You know what? I don't own a pair of sweatpants.
I don't own those sweatpants anymore. But yeah, I find that
I
my
mean, if I'm
chinos are just as
I'm
comfortable.
exercising, I'm like wearing shorts. I don't think I've ever done any exercise like wearing like anything long on my legs. Even in like the middle of winter here in UK when it's Baltic cold,
Exact
uh,
same way. Yes. I've
I'm like,
never, yeah.
it's got to be shorts.
I bought them literally for red eye flights because I was, I don't know, 3, 4 times a year going to New York. And that like tapered sweatpant that Nike did fit with those acronyms very seamlessly. Like it was the look looked like a look, so to
Yeah,
speak.
yeah, yeah.
Um, so yeah, I mean, I haven't worn those shoes in forever, but yeah, the Sakai's I remember quite well actually. Yeah, those are cool.
Yeah, so that's the like the shoe thing, and then like a lot of button down Oxfords.
Okay.
Um,
Are you
you know,
familiar with Anglo Italia?
no,
They're there in London.
right?
I'm I'm obsessed with their shirts now. Like at my last trip to London, I finally went into their boutique and I'm trying to think. It's like
Where is it?
it's sort of it's not in Mayfair, but it's sort of northeast of Mayfair. Um I I'm struggling
Mayfair.
to remember where it is exactly. Hang on one second, I'll tell
Where
you. This is
Marylebone? Is it Marylebone?
yeah, not far from Marylebone. Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's let's see. Anglo Italia. Riveting conversation here, folks. Anglo Italian is actually what it's called. So the main street is on Thayer. So it's if you go up Thayer, sort of north, and it's on New Cavendish Street.
Okay.
Um, oh wait, nope, one more block. It's on
Weymouth.
Weymouth. Yeah, it's on Weymouth.
I'm
So
on
yeah,
Google.
Marylebone High Street.
Yeah,
So it's
yeah, yeah,
right up there, Marylebone. Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
Marylebone. Yeah, 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 yeah.
And my gosh, like look, I'm a weird shape, I feel like. Not weird, but like I like my things to fit a certain way. We all do normally.
Hmm. Hmm.
And they are probably the only sort of smart, let's call it dress shirt that I've ever found off the rack that fits me perfectly. And I mean sleeve length,
Yeah.
collar, through the chest, through the body, like everything fits me. Like I can just order it in a 15 and a half neck and I know it's going to be good.
Okay, so it's a formal shirt then. It's something. It's what you wear with a suit, but it's in an Oxford cloth.
Well, it's both. They have both. And actually, I just ordered the Oxford cloth for the first time recently alongside with a chambray or like a denim.
Oh, right.
And they're great. So I highly recommend you check them out. I know Jeremy Kirkland is a big fan of theirs.
Okay.
I think you know Jeremy, right?
Yeah, I do
Um,
know Jeremy. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
he's the one who I think switched me onto them a couple of years ago, and I will say the Oxford it's a tall collar. So I took I received it literally like a week and a half ago, and so I texted Jeremy and I said, "Hey man, is it me or is this collar quite big?" And he said, "Yeah, for those for sure." He's like, "I actually prefer that shirt under, like a sweater, V-neck or something like that as a result." And I was like, "Okay." So
Right.
my other
Okay.
ones are like proper cloth because they'll like take your measurements or whatever, and because I
Yeah.
like them a certain way.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah, yeah.
but I love an Oxford shirt. Yeah, for sure.
I
And I
only
feel
had
like now that I'm in my mid 40s, I just turned 46, and it's kind of one of those things where I just I I just need to dress my age for the lack of a better description. Like I living in Southern California is tough because there's a lot of 50, 55-year-old men who dress like they're in middle school.
Yeah,
And
right.
I just can't oversized pants and trying to look cool. I'm like, dude, you
Yeah,
don't look cool. You look crazy. Like,
yeah, yeah. No, well, yeah, I'm with you. I think you know, we find our own kind of like way of dressing, don't we, at some point?
mhm,
And generally, and for some people that happens like early, they discover that in their 20s. I don't think I did, but I think I got to grips with it in my mid 30s, basically. I
right.
just figured that, you know, um, I sort of at that point I worked for Selfridges for a long time. I was like 6 years at Selfridges before I came to Mr. Porter. And the dress code there was suits. So I
Hmm.
wore suits 5 days a week. And I kind of brought that in the early days into Mr. Porter. But not very quickly, but that sort of subsided and it's sort of so I don't find myself wearing kind of full suits so much anymore.
Right.
And I think that, that I think, that sort of what's the word I'm looking for? That sort of those roots of dressing quite formally,
Yeah.
then definitely have influenced how I dress kind of more casually, i.e.
Sure.
what I sort of showing you earlier, or like, you know, blazers and denim shirts and kind of like jeans and chinos and like formal shoes and that kind of way of dressing, which
Yeah.
probably does summarize. And if anyone looks at my grumpy selfies, they'll see that there's probably quite a lot of consistency.
Yeah. I've bought a few suits actually in the last couple of years, but I tell you, I think my approach to suit buying has changed and it's less about what the suit will look like as a whole all the time. And I really pursue suits that I could wear as separates. And I
Mhm.
think that's really the approach now is that I actually enjoy wearing like a suit pant with either like a black blazer or like a corduroy or or
Totally.
the flip side and then
Makes
wearing it
sense,
with
but you,
denim.
but you, the key to that, I think, is the fabrication, isn't it?
Totally.
Uh,
Yeah.
like I bought a Caruso suit, mentioning Caruso for the second time, from Mr. Porter a couple of months ago, and it's a corduroy, like like camel dark tan colored corduroy suit,
Mm,
uh, and I love it. Like it's so kind of comfortable, but smart, but casual at the same time. And actually, I kind of tend to wear that with like this shirt or like a navy roll neck or something like that.
great
Um,
color, like,
so, yeah,
contrast.
with a dark denim is a great combo, I think.
Hmm.
Um, and yeah, like you say, it's kind of I like this idea now of being smart but not formal.
Right. How did you
Uh,
get into clothes to begin with? Was it like job related? Well, like what was your first job?
um, I mean, I did different jobs when I was like 18 to sort of 22 because I was bumming around basically and living in different countries and doing things. But
Oh, wow.
I was always into like clothes, as a kid. I think, I've got a distinct memory. I think I was 14. I think it was my 14th birthday. My parents took me to this store in a town near where we lived, in a town called Reigate in Surrey. And there was like one very kind of like high-end menswear store, and they sold Ralph Lauren.
Oh, cool.
And I got my first Ralph Lauren shirt for my birthday, like when I was 14. And that was like a big thing. That was a big deal because it was an
Yeah.
expensive shirt. And it was a double sort of Bengal stripe Oxford button down. So it wasn't a single Bengal stripe, but it was like two and two and two,
Right.
just like white and navy. And I loved that shirt.
So
But I
the
think,
Oxford started real early.
yeah, that did
It's the
that did
first
start
one.
early.
Yeah.
Yeah, I grew up really in the 80s. I was born in 1973, so like by time I was 14, it was 1987, and that's kind of like it's quite a period of time to be 14 years old. And my brother, who was 3.5 years older than me, was even more kind of like deep into that sort of punk new romantic
Yeah.
crossover
The
in
Clash.
the early 80s. Yeah, and he was kind of, so I got a lot. I think the early sort of fashion influences and music influences definitely came from him, and that he was listening to sort of the Jesus and Mary Chain and the Clash, and I suppose the Cure and Depeche Mode and David Bowie and all of that sort of stuff. And he kind of was wearing like alpha, bombers, nylon, like khaki orange reversible bombers with sort of like 20 pleat trousers and sort of crepe soled, what do you call those shoes that are like slightly pointy with the strap on, with
Monk
the, with the,
strap.
dot- with the dots on they're like sort of what sort of teddy boys used to wear.
Mm. I,
Those kind of, and so I remember like, him dressing like that, when he was like, 15, 16, 17. And at that point I was, 3 or 4 years younger than that. And so, you can't help but sort of like I think anyone from that era was interested in fashion because the culture was so strong in that period with them, like the music that was around and the magazines, because it was like pre the internet. And
yeah.
pre-mobile phones and pre-social media, and at school and outside of school, everything was so tribal. Your friendship groups were sort of style tribes.
Yeah, I
Um,
miss those days for just style purposes. Like when you went to London, people dressed like London, and when you went to Paris, people dressed like Paris. And like now everybody dresses alike because of the information is, it's transmitted immediately to everybody.
Yeah, well, people basically wanted to dress like the music,
Yeah,
like the bands or that they liked,
sure.
so sort of started there. You were like if you were into The Cure, you were a goth. If you were into,
Yeah.
you know, so on and so forth.
Do you remember the first CD you ever bought with your own money or album? Could have been a tape, whatever.
Um, I think um, I think the first record that I
Okay.
ever bought,
Yeah.
which was a single, was Shakin' Stevens, This Old House.
Okay.
Probably don't even know it, but he was like a early mid 80s kind of like rockabilly, sort of wanted to be like Elvis, and for some reason I really liked this song, and I was like, I don't know, 12, 13 years old or something, and yeah, and my mum took me to buy it.
You're going to listen to that later today, I have a feeling.
I don't think I will.
Uh,
But I'm old enough to not have any shame, and I didn't, I could have made something like cooler up, but no,
That's
sadly,
so funny.
sadly, it was Shakin' Stevens, This Old House.
That's amazing. What did your
Yeah. Oh,
parents do?
oh, oh, spell Ole. There was no D on the end,
Oh,
obviously.
right, of course. Yeah, of course. Yeah, rockabilly, right? So,
Yeah.
what did your parents do for work?
My dad was a accountant
Okay,
who then sort of started his own business, and I so was an entrepreneur.
nice.
And my mum was stay-at-home mum.
Sure. Was your dad a snappy dresser?
My dad was, I think, yeah, good dresser. I mean, my parents were, children of the 60s, and so, and you know, suits was like a real thing. My dad
Hmm.
got all his suits in London from a shop called Austin Reed
Okay,
in like the 1970s, and I kind of got pictures of him with like long hair and like wide lapelled suits and stuff like that. And he had a
nice.
he had a he had an MGTD,
Wow.
which was like a two-seater, like 1950s MG sports car that he was like obsessed with, and actually kept that his whole life.
Wow.
Um, and so he was, but I think so yeah, but he wasn't like into fashion, but he dressed well, and
Yeah.
I think mum made him dress well, like casually. My grandfather, my mum's father, was a very snappy dresser. He was like all bespoke suits, bespoke shirts, wore tie every day of the week, even at the weekends. Um,
Love
you know,
that.
and when he died, I inherited a pile of silk shirts that he'd had made in Hong Kong, which had his like initials embroidered, like down there on the sort of, you know, on the lower part of the left hand sort of body.
Sure.
So I had all these like amazing shirts and that was, I mean, I was still young at that point.
I feel
Uh,
like Brooks Brothers and places like that, maybe even Ralph Lauren, will embroider initials there from time to time. And I've always wondered why they're there. Like, because they're not far enough down to where it's tucked in, right? It's like slightly above the waist.
I think in the old days it had a practical, but yeah, so it's underneath. I think it was really for the laundry because people didn't used to do their own laundry. So I
That's
think
right.
people
Okay.
had their shirts embroidered there so that the laundry wouldn't kind of give the wrong shirts to the wrong customers.
Oh, no way. Yeah, I've never even given that any thought until just now, really, like as to like why it was there specifically. But yeah, that makes a ton of sense.
Yeah,
Is
yeah,
the
yeah.
MG still in the family or is that car long gone?
No, sadly not. My dad died in 2019, and
I'm
then
sorry.
we kind of kept it for we kept it for a few years, but I didn't have the sort of bandwidth to really kind of like, keep it in the way that it needed to be kept. Neither
Sure.
did I've got two brothers, one of whom lives in Australia, so that's like totally impractical. But the other one didn't either really. So no, eventually we sold it on, I'm afraid.
Right. What is your daily driver? You mentioned the Land Rover before.
My daily drive is a 2010 Land Rover 90.
Amazing. Oh, that's great.
Yeah, just, starts every time, just gets me to the train station through, some pretty shitty weather
Yeah.
in Surrey.
Yeah,
Sorry,
that's
sorry for
great.
swearing.
So did you grow up in Surrey then?
I did, yeah.
Oh, so you're born and raised there. Okay.
Yeah.
Because you said you
I
moved
mean, I
around a
lived
bit.
in London for 15 years, don't get me wrong, so I moved into London in my early 20s and then we moved out to Surrey when I had two kids and I was living in this tiny sort of two up, two down terraced house in Wandsworth with a garden like the size of a shoebox and like push chairs and like baby stuff everywhere. And, my wife and I never went out anymore because we had like two children under the age of like 18 months. And we were
Oh,
like,
wow.
but what are we doing here? We could, if we move out, we could have like so much more space and
Right.
um be a bit less stressful.
Yeah. Are you
Yeah.
hunting anything currently? Watches, cars, shoes?
Um, Hunting anything? No, I'm not. I mean, I think the next phase of my watch sort of life will be that I'll probably trade a few in and sort of for like one or two more special pieces. I don't, for example, own a Patek Philippe,
Yeah, I don't either.
and I would love to have a gold Patek of some sort of complication. I mean, a gold perpetual calendar Patek would be is definitely something that I would like to have at some stage. And I feel probably as I get older, I'll sort of just, you know, um, migrate into wearing something like that.
What would be on the chopping block? Because the three we've talked about most are pretty special.
Neither of the two Rolexes, I don't think, would be on the chopping block. So I don't know. I have to wait and
Okay.
see.
Yeah. Yeah. I've been struggling with which, Patek that I would want, I'm a big chronograph guy and I love the
Mhm.
5170, but there's a lot of negative space on that dial and I really, really do enjoy the 1815 chronograph from Longa. And those two are like, you know, if you ask
Okay.
my wife, they're identical, but if you talk to me, they're very different,
Yeah,
so
yeah, very different. No, very
um
different.
and
I'm
so
just sort of, yeah, I'm just looking at my, uh, which reference did you like?
the 5170p with
Uh,
Breguet numerals, it
okay.
would be the
Yeah.
one that I would go for. But I think at the end of the day, if I'm gonna own a Patek, it's probably gonna be an Aquanaut because I would actually wear that all the time.
Yeah. I really like an Aquanaut, I have to say.
Yeah,
I mean, like things like that.
it's exquisite.
I'm just
Yeah.
looking at my kind of saved watches file. But I also, really, really love that.
Oh yeah, yeah. I mean, just that's is that a 3940? What is that?
That's the 3940J.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's the
Um,
one, man. When you said perpetual, I was like, it's got to be a 3940. They're just
yeah. 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 It's
that
just like,
is a Patek
I,
perpetual
I mean,
in my brain.
I've got about 50 Instagram saved images of that one. I also
You're
like the
you're
world
just manifesting. That's what you're doing.
bad, isn't it?
That's
Everyone
great.
does that, don't they? Everyone sort of that's what Instagram's for, isn't it? Just creating massive wish lists. It's like the Mr. Porter wish list, which is also I use a lot, but
Yeah,
Instagram like a sort of a watch and car wish list tool, isn't it? Really.
right, right. Here's a question I didn't think to ask you as we're wrapping up here. What is sort of you mentioned the new direction of Mr. Porter with this new ownership and stuff. What do you foresee being different going forward?
I just, Mr. Porter's should just be the world's best menswear, right? That was really the sort of the unsaid mission in the early days, and
Okay.
and and I think that I just want to get back to that. Our job is to you know, pick and curate the best brands in the world, have a talented, tasteful team of buyers who are picking the best, options from that.
Yep.
Present them in like a way that is very clear. Um, Use our storytelling and our content to, inspire and educate, and give people, I don't know, just ideas.
Hmm.
And then to back that up with, with great service. And, that's the sort of executive summary of what we do. And, I want to kind of get back to talking directly to our target consumer.
Yeah.
And Mr. Porter's always sold fashion, as in like high fashion, runway fashion. But at the same time, the DNA of the brand, and I think the core of our market, is this guy who's probably in the most part in his mid 40s.
Yep.
A lot of them are married with children. They've got to a stage in their life where they're pretty successful. They've got jobs in finance and tech and medicine and law and creative industries where, they're busy, they're traveling a lot. They need to sort of, look, dressing well is kind of actually part of their life. It's part of their work. Um, and those guys are all over the world.
Hmm.
And I think that you have to talk to those people. They need to see themselves on the website or in the app, through the campaigns that we do and through the stories that we tell, and the people that we kind of that we interview and talk about their style lives. So I think it's not that much more complicated than that. But
Yeah.
like any business, the foundations of this company are the customer. And it's like a house. When you buy a new house, you get a survey done, and if the foundations are shot, you run a mile.
Yeah.
That's not me saying the foundations of Mr. Porter are shot at all. But that was definitely the first piece of work that I did when I got back here in May. And from the findings of that work come, arrives the strategy.
Hmm.
And it's built around, right, this is my customer strategy. And then from that, I have tactics that are deliverable through product, and I have tactics that are deliverable through customer service, and I have tactics that are deliverable through our brand marketing and content. And all of that supports, the customer strategy that I have, which is talking to that guy that I've just described to you. And but at the same time, also being quite broad and being somewhere for people to discover new brands. And it's not just like Mr. Porter isn't just the way that I dress. It's a broad church.
Yeah. That's great. I love it. I think that's a great place to stop, frankly. Toby, thank you for your time. I always enjoy speaking with you, and
Thank you, Wesley. Yeah.
I'm trying to find a very valid excuse to get back to London. So if you
Okay.
could help me
Well,
in that search, let me know.
I mean, there's lots of good reasons to come to London. So, let me know when you do.
Yeah, for sure. Dinner's
Okay,
on
well,
me if and when that happens. Thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate it.
thanks so much. Okay,
Okay,
nice talking to you. I enjoyed it. Thanks a lot.
absolutely.